A seemingly friendly farmer and his sister kidnap unsuspecting travelers and bury them alive, using them to create the special meat they are famous for. On its 42nd anniversary, we watched Motel Hell.
They will say that I have shed innocent blood. What's blood for, if not for shedding?
I'm my number one fan.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
God, it knows I'm here.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
You're listening to the Slasher Sports Show with Billy Graves.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. First, I want to ask you to hit that subscribe button or the follow button, depending on which platform you're listening, viewing on. Turn on those notifications, too. Second, if you've enjoyed the show up to this point, we'd appreciate a thumbs up or a rating on your podcast app. Today's guest, host of the Middle Class Film Class, much like myself, a movie critic who likes to have fun doing it. Thank you for joining me, Pete Abeyta. Abeyta, did I say that right?
Oh, yeah, you nailed it.
Oh, man. You know what? Let's end this thing because it's going to get no better than that. I thought it was right. I try to, it's important to me to get names right.
Sure, it's been butchered throughout my whole life, but, you know, when you look at
not
it.
Today.
Alpha,
not
beta,
today.
beta fish, what do you want to say?
Well, you are not a beta fish. You're an alpha fish, and that's why you're here.
That's right.
Okay.
I'm a sigma fish, I think. I don't know if that's better or worse than alpha because I'm not a Gen Zer.
It's different. So I'm down with it. But before we get into this absolutely absurd film.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is. But we're not going to sugarcoat this. Go ahead and tell everybody about your own show, Middle Class Film Class.
Okay, so the show Middle Class Film Class, it's a bi-weekly podcast, twice a week, not once every other week, but twice a week. And it's hosted by myself, Joseph, and Tyler. The three of us are good friends in real life, and we found ourselves talking about movies quite a bit. And Tyler just said, "Hey, we should just make a podcast. My mom's got a podcast. Why can't we have a podcast?" So Tyler's mom's got a podcast with her sister, and it's great. But what we do is every Monday we have a news and discussion show and recommendations, which is called Gab and Chatter, and it's weekly news. It's fun stories and weird stuff and upcoming movies we're excited about, just discussion. And at the end of that episode, we do give streaming picks for the movies that we watched this week that are streaming for free. And then on Wednesdays, we do one deep dive review into a movie that we chose, one of the three of us or one of our fans chose. And it's all randomized by a spinning wheel of destiny. Very fun, and we interact with our listeners a lot. So I know that there's about 100,000 options for movie podcasts out there. What makes us a little different is that we record everything live to tape as if it's like a radio, like a morning show. So all the sounds are added in live, all the music intros and segment bumpers and things like that are all done live right here in the studio. So it's very fun.
This sounds fun. What's something that you've reviewed lately?
Oh gosh, that's a good one. We did the Predator, the original Predator movie, and Joseph happened to be celebrating his wedding anniversary that weekend. So my fiance, my girlfriend, she stepped in and was our third host, our guest host, and she gave a very feminine approach to a movie that probably would be benefit from getting that. But we've done everything from like ridiculously hard to watch movies like Come and See, one of the most brutal war movies of all time, to MacGruber and American Psycho and Hereditary, really everything in between. We've done the entire Godfather trilogy, and right now this week just released the first of the Before trilogy, Richard Linklater's Before trilogy, Before Sunrise. And first watch for all three of us. Very, very interesting movie, very good movie. And we're going to do the whole entire trilogy as it lands on the wheel.
I'm curious to know the fiance's take on the Predator.
She just so I'm on this, I want to make sure. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Oh, please do.
Okay.
I used to be in the Navy, so you know the phrase "curse like a sailor."
Sure,
I was actually a sailor, so let it fucking fly, man.
Well, I run a body shop, so there's a lot of cussing at the body shop. So she was playing while she was watching the movie. She was playing Fuck, Marry, Kill with the Predator with the different characters, and she landed on fuck the Predator, marry the Predator, kill the Predator, all three of the Predator in different states of the movie. But she says she liked it, but I think she preferred Prey, the most recent release that came to Hulu, just because there's a little bit more for connection there. She's not very sympathetic with 5 beefcakes in the jungle trying to kill an alien.
Oh, sure. I mean, listen, that scene with Arnold and Carl Weathers where they throw their hands together and those biceps are just fucking pumping.
Yeah.
You know, veins are popping, and like I get a little bricked up at times, you know.
I am right now.
Right now, I mean, shift it to the side because we've got a completely different movie to talk about in a few minutes. But The Predator's one of those all-time greats, man. I don't expect, other than maybe the eye candy that you might want to look at, the Predator was just not geared toward the female viewer. It was an adrenaline, testosterone filled film with some of the biggest names in their respective genres. Of course, you had like Bill Duke, but man, Arnold is Arnold. You had Apollo Creed, you had Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yep.
You had the guy from 48 Hours, Billy Bear.
Yeah.
I can never remember his name.
Shane Black as well, who was at the time just a writer, but they stuck him in there.
Hey, I have to ask, you're a big car guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just said that you have a body shop and that it should go without saying. Yep. And I don't want to get into this film before it's time to get into it.
Motel,
but I know the rides in Motel Hell, they didn't go over your head. You saw the classic rides in this film. What'd you think about them?
Well, the truck that the farmer, what's his name? Farmer favorite. Vincent. Yeah, 1953 Chevy pickup, rounded corner, like 5-window cab, very, very solid. My dad had one of those before I was born, and sold it to help buy the house that I was raised in. There's a lot of good ones in there. I think that one stuck out as the best, but I did like the Cornet, the blue Cornet, where they ran up on the lover's lane or whatever, the blue 4-door. I'm a sucker for 4-doors.
You got that Chevy van that was just excellent.
Ivan and the Terribles. Great name.
That was the best. And, you know, we'll talk about the members of that band in a little bit. But gosh, man, I looked at this and I said, I've seen this film probably, I don't know, 5 times.
Okay.
Over, not because I keep going back because I like it.
Sure.
It's definitely not that. It's more like for whatever reason, I'm stuck reviewing it with somebody, and we had to do it on its anniversary. You
Got
know,
it.
And it's 42 years old. It's not, you know, anything to sniff at, and it is a fun film.
Sure, I had a good time.
In all of its absurdities. I just don't recommend anybody watch it twice.
Well, this is my first watch, so shan't ever again in your recommendation.
Won't, can't, shan't.
Yeah.
So what do you say we go ahead and get into this film? And folks, just, you know, on October 24th in 1980, a film was released in the vein of Deliverance and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, with maybe just a dash of Soylent Green, maybe just a dash. In fact, Tobe Hooper, the director of Texas Chainsaw, was on board to direct this film.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it fell apart. I think a lot of it had to do with the script and maybe the production company that maybe Hooper was attached to. But that film was Motel Hell. Pete, should we go ahead and check out this trailer?
Let's do it.
Man, I mean, we are fully aware that this thing's a pile of shit, but this trailer, I absolutely love. Look at just the dark, scary, ominous music.
Oh, there's Ivan. You know, I definitely got some Psycho vibes from this too.
Right though?
There's the pond where they dump all the cars.
And I love the fact that, this thing hasn't been updated. There's no remastering.
Yeah.
We're almost watching it here in, I guess, in the format that you would have seen it in a drive-in theater.
The version I saw from Tubi looks markedly sharper than this trailer, but I love the grit of the trailer.
Yeah, the grit, the darkness here, it doesn't look at all like a dark comedy. And that's what I like about the trailer, because at this time, it's short. Okay, this is not a full-length trailer, but it gives away very little. And this is my favorite part right here.
Slow-mo.
I love the slow-mo. That reminded me of the kills, a lot of the kills in Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th, that also came out in 1980.
Oh wow.
With this trailer, it gives away very little. And I don't get wound up about trailers, but the people who listen to this show have heard me bitch about the spoilers that were given away in Godzilla versus Kong. They never should have said anything about Mechagodzilla. It could have been a big surprise.
Oh, that was in the trailer?
It was right there in the trailer. If you're watching for it, and I mean, I guess partially it's my fault, because maybe I watched the trailer a few hundred times and tried to pause it with every new frame to see what was going on.
Don't torture yourself, man. Go in blind.
Oh, yeah, I want to go in blind, but there are times when, we preview films on this podcast, which that was not one of them. So it was on me.
Yeah.
But, I'm pausing the frame and I see the kid, the son of Dr. Shirozawa, and behind him is the screen. It's like illuminated, and you see these legs and it says charging. And I'm like, what the hell could they be charging? Oh my God, it's Mechagodzilla. And then there's a scene where he kind of comes out of the, it's like a dusty debris cloud, and you just see the face with the glowing eyes just running through it. And it's like, okay, that's Mecha.
Yeah.
Could have been a surprise. You didn't have to put that in the trailer. We were already on board with, the epic battle between the two kaiju, but
when Mechagodzilla popped out, I about shit my pants. I was so excited when that came out, because I didn't see the trailer. I don't watch trailers.
See, that's what I was going for. That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
There was no talk of any other kaiju that was going to be in the film. They always try to surprise you. I don't remember if they did that with King of the Monsters.
Didn't catch that one. It's on my Shin Godzilla and King of Monsters are high on my list to watch.
So, man, hit me back when you see Shin.
Is that good?
I absolutely love Shin. A lot of purists didn't like it that much, but I do think it was one of the best films of Godzilla. It rivals any of the new ones.
Have you seen? It's not quite this, but if you're a kaiju fan, which I enjoy my kaiju movies. We did a movie on the show, on the podcast, which was Colossal. It was Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis, that is basically based around the idea that a human is controlling a kaiju and doesn't know it. And it's really cool. It's done.
See, okay. Had that been listed as like a monster horror, maybe I would have seen it. I've not seen that. I guess that's on my list now.
Very little of the actual like monster stuff. It's more about like a human drama, but it makes no sense. It doesn't really explain it. But it's the guy that wrote and directed Time Crimes, also wrote and directed Colossal, and it was a pretty fun movie. But the actual kaiju movie that I would recommend that you should see is it's called Howl from Beyond the Fog. And it's streaming on Prime. It's also streaming on Tubi, and it's a short. It's only, I want to say 11 minutes or something like that long. And it's puppet based. It's all puppets, little hand carved human puppets, and then a giant kaiju puppet. And it's all done with a voiceover, but no actual humans on screen. It's very, very fun.
Fuck, that sounds like something I need right now in my life.
Like 3 times. The sound that the creature makes is very cool, and you're like, oh shit, someone made this. And then if you almost all the versions that you find of it, you'll find it's like a 15-minute or maybe 20 minutes or something. I can't remember exactly how long. It's very short, and then it goes into the creation of the whole thing. So it's like an hour-long file. So if you pull it up, you're like, this is not the right one. It's an hour and 10 minutes long. That's the right one. It shows you all the behind the scenes afterwards.
Okay, I dig that. And lately I've gotten into shorts a whole lot more. And I think
Sure, cool.
people, there's this weird dynamic with film goers now. Okay. I remember when I believe it was The Irishman dropped, people complained about how it was like 3 hours long. It's like, how do you sit through this? And I started thinking to myself, like, well, of course you're going to complain about this because today's generation, not to be a old man shaking my fist at the sky, but that's what happens. You got the younger crowd who can't sit still for more than a few minutes without their little short form videos to look at on YouTube or Vimeo or however they're consuming. TikTok, is the big new one. But to expect like younger fans to be able to sit and watch a full length film is a big ask. Even on Halloween Ends that I saw this past weekend, I saw people scrolling through their Instagrams in front of me like multiple times during the film.
Wow.
And I'm thinking to myself, back in the day, this wouldn't have been even an issue if we had Instagram.
Sure.
But my thought here is more big time directors should be doing short films.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the films that I've looked at that I've really liked some were made by some friends. Ben Schatzel had one called Remission that he shared with me before he came onto the show. And I started looking around and I said, man, I really think short films could be the next thing that I get into.
Mm-hmm.
So I started digging around to some other directors. There was a friend of mine named Patrick Ray who came onto the show who did a film called They Wait in the Dark. His short film that had won some awards at some festivals was called It's Hell Getting Old. It's basically 4 senior citizens in an elevator. They're stuck in the elevator, and one of them starts to go into maybe some sort of transformation. And that's really all I can say because, I mean, hey, it's a short film. How much can I really tell you without spoiling the whole thing, right? But my favorite that I have seen lately, you may have seen a film come out of Spain called Piggy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Piggy is a long form from a short film that dropped a few years ago called Cerdita. And Cerdita is basically piggy in Spanish. Same actress, same main actress.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it almost does that thing that When a Stranger Calls did. Mm-hmm. And the original When a Stranger Calls, the best part of the film, not going to say the second part of the film was bad, but the best part of the film was that opening sequence that I guess could be considered a cold open. It was just a little bit longer than a cold open, where the stalker is calling the house and the girl is answering, and then it culminates with, we've traced the call. The call's coming from inside the house. Yeah. She goes to the door, opens the door, and there's the detective, right? Well, this one, basically, the short ends where the cold open ends in the film.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then there's a whole other story past that.
Did they reshoot Piggy for like the short, or did they just use the short?
They did. They reshot it.
Cool.
The bullies that that caught up to her were different. Mm-hmm. All the actors were different. The only one that I recognized, because again, this is a Spanish cast that I'm maybe not as familiar with.
Sure.
But the lead actress was the same, and everybody else was different. So they reshot it. The lead actress had gone through a few changes. I think between then and now, she might have had a baby. Mm-hmm. So she's a little bit fluffier than before. Mm-hmm. She's a mom now and doing her thing.
It's not.
But that was that. Yeah, that was like the whole premise of the film, though. Like, just the torment that she has to go through and what she has to accept. Maybe something that she wouldn't have accepted had some bad things not happened to her bullies.
Sure.
So great film. And then the last one, this coming Friday, I'm going to be having, thankfully, Karen Lamb, who directed the newest Bring It On film.
Oh yeah, I've heard the name.
Yeah, so Bring It On, its sixth or seventh installment.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, there are a lot of them, but this one is now a horror flick, a slasher
All
horror.
right.
So they have completely changed the direction. I want to get to the bottom of that, see why they did that. But her first directorial film was called, it was a short as well, called The Cabinet. And I can't really say anything about that one without giving too much away, but either a husband and a wife or a boyfriend, girlfriend show up to, it looks like a home on the road, and the boyfriend goes away on business, and the girlfriend starts digging around the apartment, and she runs into some shit and turned out to be great. So like those films, I don't think I've seen a short film this year, and here we are in October, late October, and I haven't seen a bad one. It makes me think I've been missing out on a whole lot.
Well, you know, it's funny because short films are how Hollywood executives like basically put faith in a filmmaker. They're like, well, if you can do this on a really small budget, we're going to give you a big budget, and we'll just take this 5-minute short, add 8 more scenes very similar to that with the same tone, fill it with a bunch of exposition, rewrite the script, fill the script out, let it live a little bit in that world, and then there's your feature. There's a filmmaker who's made a bunch of really good movies. He's 3 for 3 right now, in my opinion. His name's Jim Cummings, and he did Thunder Road, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, and The Beta Test. And the Thunder Road was a short that he made. I think it was at either at TIFF or Cannes or one of those big, really big name film festivals, and it won some main award, a very big award. And the whole short was one scene from Thunder Road, the movie. When they made the movie, they took the short, and the short was it was one scene. It was he was playing a police officer in full dress, the dress blues, at his mother's funeral, giving a eulogy for his mother, who he has a very troubled past with. And so he's angry and he's sad and he's crying, and his tribute is he's going to sing Thunder Road by Bruce Springsteen with a boombox playing, and the boombox is malfunctioning while he's doing it, and he's dancing and singing and crying all at the same time, and it's so good. And that's just one scene in the Thunder Road movie, and they just blew the universe up into something bigger. And he has another long form like monologue in that same movie, but that's kind of his thing. And he's a big champion of shorts. He's like, yeah, get out there and make a short. If you go see this movie and blah, 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 and you take a picture here, I'll watch your short. I'll give a review on Twitter. And it's like, that's how studios find good filmmakers. But I think that's how us movie lovers should find, filmmakers as well. You're like, oh, this short is really cool. Oh, this person's making a movie that's not based off that short, but something different. I'm gonna follow them because I really love that. Let's see what they do with 90 minutes,
Well, there are only so many minutes in the day, know, and if you can consume 5 shorts in the time that you would consume one film, one feature film, then you've gotten through a lot of different talent. And if you're more, I guess, worried about directorial work, maybe writing, then shorts is the way to go. That's how you're going to learn what a director is about. And honestly, I was talking to might have been Michael Stein. He was the original Dirk Diggler. Okay? He was in the short film that became Boogie Nights. It was called the Dirk Diggler Story, and he played that role. He had a cameo of sorts in the feature length. Cool. He was the guy buying the 8-track.
Oh, the stereo from Don Cheadle.
From Don Cheadle. Yeah, he's the guy buying from him. Okay. I can still see Cheadle, with that cup of coffee, just moving those hips.
Yeah.
But that was him in the scene, and he said that like horror and shorts, or rather cold opens, go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And it might not have been Michael that said that, but I wanted to talk about Don Cheadle for a bit.
Sure.
But horror and cold opens do go hand in hand. In fact, a lot of times that is the hook. You, by the end of that 10-minute, 5-minute cold open, you know what to be afraid of, what is going to happen at the end because you've already seen the end for somebody else.
Mhm.
And it's basically your introduction to this film. And I prefer a film with a cold open, even though some of the best didn't have them. But a cold open is really the way to go. And I feel like if I can't watch your cold open like it's a short film, I don't fucking want it.
That's funny.
I mean, that's not 100%, but you know,
Yeah,
it's
a good.
pretty
That's a good rule
close.
of thumb.
Yeah, there you go. It's a rule of thumb. But Motel Hell. Let's look at some of the taglines. See what we think about it. You might just die laughing. Is that what you want to hear going into a horror film? You might
That's
just
funny.
die laughing.
Yeah, I wish there was a little bit more yucks in there for a horror comedy. There was like some parts when the sheriff his character really kicked in. I was like, okay, this guy's good. He's got good comedic timing. When he runs in, when he catches the sister reading the same smut magazine he was reading, he goes, I can't believe you. You two, both of you are sick. And it just moves on. Like, good
Knowing
timing.
goddamn well he got caught by Wolfman Jack.
Yeah.
But you know, that is the funny thing about that tagline is it was United Artists who ultimately produced this film or released this film. And they wanted to get away from the dark comedy aspect of this film. But You Might Just Die Laughing was on the majority of the posters.
Interesting.
Wild shit. Checking in is easy. Checking out is hell. I like that one.
Not bad.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear from that deep voice narrator.
That one
Checking
goes
in
down
is easy.
smooth.
Oh yeah, real smooth. And then finally, by day they ran a motel. By night they ran amok.
That's goofy.
I can live with it. But this thing was made on a $3 million budget.
Are you kidding me?
I kid you not, Pete.
Wow. It does not look like it.
No, not at all. It grossed about 6 million, actually over 6 million.
Oh, wow.
So you double up your money. You bet on a football team. If you can double up your money,
yeah,
any venture, double up is good. And they doubled up and then some. But yeah, it didn't feel like a lot, considering that some of the films I mentioned, the Friday the 13th, the Shinings, what else came out in 80? Cannibal Holocaust, which was, ugly, but the Changeling with George C. Scott. I mean, these films all came out in 1980, so that's your pool of films to compare to. The Shining, huge budget, but Friday the 13th didn't even take 600,000 to make that film.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that's quite a multiplier.
I was gonna say, I feel like that movie looks a lot better than this movie for $3 million.
Yeah, it does, and the money that it made rivaled The Shining. It was only about $7 million difference in theaters between The Shining and Friday the 13th.
Wow, that's a trip.
Yeah, so The Shining was working with a $19 million budget. It grossed over $47 million. But a film of probably similar cinematography to Motel Hell was Friday the 13th. It was really close, but it was budgeted at around $500,000, and it grossed just under $40 million. So what the fuck in Motel Hell cost him $3 goddamn million? Must have been those sweet rides.
I was saying probably cocaine.
Yeah,
pretty fair cocaine budget on that set.
Yeah, they were going harder than cocaine, man. They were tripping balls on something. I don't know, but Kevin Connor, I don't know if you know Kevin Connor. He directed this film, and like he can get a film done with a very small budget. He did what was it? Not Tales from the Grave, Beyond the Grave is what he did. And it was his horror debut. He'd done other things, but it was his first horror debut. Actually, no, that may have been his first break as a director. Can't think of anything earlier. But he did that one with Peter Cushing, Donald Pleasance, Diana Dors, who was like a British version of Marilyn Monroe. And I'm not embellishing that. She may not have been on the worldwide scale that Marilyn Monroe was, but Diana Dors was like a fucking hammer. Okay. She was a blonde bombshell type. So yeah, I know a $3 million budget doesn't sound very high, but considering what we saw in the film,
I was gonna say
I
it
don't
sounds
know.
pretty high for the result.
It was, but it was written by the Jaff brothers, but nobody wanted to buy the screenplay. Nobody wanted it. It was written, it was ready to shoot, and nobody wanted it. Universal was going to run with it. Okay, and Universal will run with just about anything.
Sure.
And that would have kept Toby Hooper on board, like I said, but that fell apart. United Artists ended up doing it, thus the clusterfuck that we got. And it's not like either Jaff brothers known for his writing anyway. Okay, Stephen Charles Jaff, he produced K-19, the Widowmaker, the Harrison Ford sub flick, and Ghost, Swayze and Demi Moore.
Oh, that's interesting.
Molly, you and Danger Girl. And other than that, probably the worst of the Star Trek flicks, Part 6. I can't say that for sure. I'm not a Trekkie.
Yeah, me either.
I haven't probably going to be somebody thinking like, oh no, there's plenty worse than that.
I haven't seen a single Star Trek movie that wasn't the new J.J. Abrams ones on.
Chris Pine and all those guys. Yeah,
I didn't see any. I've watched a lot of the old, like the Next Generation series, but the movies, I was like, no, it's just, it's I don't know. It never like
it's hokey.
Yeah, it feels hokey. Yeah, I have
very hokey.
Yeah, and I got
part of me wants to watch it because of the hokiness.
Sure. And the confession I have is that like there's a lot of movies that I'll watch where I'm like, okay, this is a groundbreaking movie. This set the stage for everything else moving forward. And I'll watch it in hoping for some reverence to that. And I just watch it. I'm like, it's just kind of a boring movie. It's just not that good, So like,
I like that you said reverence, because part of me wants to go back and look at a lot of films that are kind of those rites of passage. And if I'm going to ever call myself a sci-fi fan, and I'm not ever going to call myself that, I may like some sci-fi films, but I'll never be known as a sci-fi guy.
Okay.
I still need to go back and watch some old school Shatner and what made him.
Sure.
Listen, you people in Hollywood don't come up with impressions for nobodies. Okay. Jamie Foxx isn't out doing impressions of Billy Graves, but everybody's got a William Shatner.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And
maybe because it's easy to do, but I get you.
Is it?
There's on the wing. Something out there. Like you just have to talk like that. It's harder to impersonate Walken. He has a very specific cadence too, but no one can seem to nail it quite right unless you're like.
I can't nail Walken. I can't. There was a radio show, and I do not remember the comedian that was talking about it. But it may have been Kevin Pollak, as a matter of fact.
It's probably Kevin Pollak. He's the master.
Yeah. Oh, he's the master of so many obscure ones too, not just Walker and Shatner. The bit was basically he never stays on topic. You ask him a question and he doesn't stay on topic. So the question could have been, so what was it like working with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on The Rundown? And his answer is, Frankenstein never scared me.
Yeah.
And then there's a follow-up question. He said, but marsupials do, because they're fast.
Because they're fast. And they should
because
be.
they're fast.
Yeah,
man, Pollak is so good, though.
I think Pollak is the one who says the key to the first step to a walk-in impression is to take a one-syllable word and make it into two syllables. Like, no. That's it.
No.
Yeah, no.
Oh, God. Just doing it myself put it into perspective for me. God, no.
Yeah, no,
all wrong.
God
damn it.
I think one of the problems with this, like, so I've seen the poster for Motel Hell, but I've never seen the movie. And it was like I think the iconic shot is the pig head with the chainsaw, right?
Oh, that's the one, man.
That's the one, right?
Very one.
The whole movie, I was waiting for it to happen, and I was like, come on, man, more pig head, more chainsaw.
It made a cover of Fangoria. This is not the one, though. This is the new one with Jamie Lee and Michael Myers.
And Corey Cunningham.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if that was the one. Looks like the right hand's intact, but the left hand is the one that was fucked up, right? Missing the fingers.
I don't know. Since we're on the topic of Halloween Ends, I'm really loving the extreme directions that everyone's going with their takes on it, because I had a good time with it, and I have some following. Like one of one of the three of us on the show, Tyler, he has Michael Myers' face tattooed on his arm, and he's a big fan of the franchise. He loves the series. I think Season of the Witch is probably Halloween 1, and then Season of the Witch are his two favorites. So you would think, liking Season of the Witch, you would be a big fan of this one, because this is way out in left field. And he hated it. He could not stop disparaging it. And I thought it was a really fun time and took some interesting risks. And it was more like a collection of homages to other horror slashers. And I don't know. I liked it. I actually wish they would have gone further. I wish they would have just kind of let Corey run with it a little while. And he picks up the knife, and he's the legacy. Now it's not Michael Myers. Now it's Corey Cunningham.
You know, I'm a big fan of alliteration.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can give me a mass killer with alliteration initials, alliterated initials,
Yep.
I'm down with it. I'm with you. I enjoyed the film. I did not enjoy the film as much the first time I watched. Being an impatient guy, and I've already told you my thing on trailers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I told you, I'm impatient. So the 2 nights before I had tickets for, me and my kids. We were going to go watch it. Regal Cinemas, get to recline in the seats and have popcorn or drinks. It's wonderful. But there I am, 3 a.m. watching it on Peacock
Thursday night
by myself. Yeah, Thursday night or Friday morning, however you want to classify that. It's not Friday until I've slept.
Sure,
so it didn't become Friday until like 6 a.m. So I watched the film and I'm like, okay, I went into this with an open mind. Tried not to set myself up. What people have issues writing things in their heads.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't come out the way it was written in your head, it's just a bad movie. But I don't know who needs to hear it, listeners. Okay. Hear me very clearly. Something that happens in a story, whether it be a character dying, some lines not being the way that you thought they should be delivered, that does not make a film bad. That just makes it mean that it didn't happen the way you wanted it to happen.
Yeah, your expectations were not met.
Expectation is the root of all heartache, Pete. It is the absolute root of all heartache. And I think that's where a lot of the heartache comes from. Expectation. They said very clearly that this film was going to be different. And I don't know what kind of parallels that we can draw between 2018 and what it compares to. Kills and what it compares to, and then Ends what it compares to. I know there was a big homage to Christine.
Yeah.
Another, so I mean, that was great. I thought that was fine. I thought it was different enough that I don't have to feel like I'm watching Christine. And, I can leave it at that. But I had a very good time watching the film. Very happy with the ending. And I'm actually going to be reviewing it with a good friend of mine named Colby Peterson here in maybe a week or so. But I'm happy with it. A lot of people are not happy with it. It is even more split than Halloween Kills. And Halloween Kills there were some very opinionated people talking about things not being necessary, like the hospital scene, which I felt like was very necessary. And
how would you take on Kills?
Well, I love Kills, first of all. Okay. I thought some of the scenes in there were really strong. The post beatdown scene, very strong to me. The transcendence into evil versus the supernatural powers that everybody seemed to want Michael to have. Learned from a very young age that pain threshold goes up when you're nuts. And he's absolutely nuts. So, but the hospital scene is where people seem to be divided. Like people felt really bad about the guy getting basically pushed into suicide. And I understand that. But what that scene does is it paints a portrait of society as it is right now that we're living in. You can take those evil dies tonight chants and equate them to the MAGAs and the BLMs of the world who, and I'm talking about like not the message. Everybody wants to make America great, right? You and I want to make America great. Everybody thinks, or people that have any fucking sense about them, believe that Black lives do matter. However, you take those organizations where there's, what's the word I'm looking for? Corruption. Take those organizations where there's corruption, and they have their taglines, they have their chants, their war cries, and that is what people are focusing on with Halloween Kills. Evil Dies Tonight equals MAGA equals BLM to these organizations, and one side hates the other, and neither one can be reasoned with when they get in their political arguments. Nobody listens to any type of logic. One person says go, we go, and once we get moving, it's like a freight train. You just can't stop it. And
It's
that's
like
what happened.
It's like where we go one, we go all, right?
That is a fact.
That's like a Q thing, isn't it? QAnon.
I'm
pretty sure that's one of their like slogans. I watched a couple documentaries about QAnon because it blows my mind that people believe that shit.
It is very mind blowing.
It's crazy, yeah.
But it's groupthink, and that's what it turns into with Evil Dies Tonight. Groupthink. The lady that was the nurse, I always space on her name. I know everybody else's name, but the lady that was driving at the beginning of Halloween with Donald Pleasance, the one that escaped his his attack, so to speak. She coined the phrase. Tommy Doyle ran with it, and then the mob, it just engulfed them, and it got so bad that they basically, with their pressure, pushed this guy out of a who knows how many story window and cracks his head open.
I love how they're like, that's Michael Myers, that 5'5" dumpy guy in a nurse's garb. You know, he's in hospital
that loves his classic rock.
I know, that's him. He's the guy. He's the one who's been terrorizing us for 40 years.
Well, here's the thing, though. The couple that was dressed as the medical people that were in the club, right? She says, I saw him. That's him. But once they got separated and she saw that Michael wasn't the guy that she saw in front of her car, and she gets shot in the face by her own gun outside of the vehicle, she can clearly see this big motherfucker is not that little dumpy guy that she saw in her car. But you can make it all kind of line up, and that's the job that it does. And I feel like Kills was a very different film from 2018, and Ends was a very different film from Kills.
It almost feels different. Like the trilogy is not a trilogy, but an anthology, you know? Like it's like,
it does feel like that.
It's totally
18
different.
18 and Kills, though, are back to back and so different.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're 1000% right.
Which is kind of interesting because the original Halloween series, the way that John Carpenter was going to produce or like bring it to us was going to be an anthology, and he didn't want Michael Myers in any of the sequels. It was just going to be a different version of, I don't know if it was all supposed to be set in Haddonfield or Haddonville or whatever it's called, or what the through line was. But like Halloween 2, Michael Myers wasn't written to be in it. And the studio was like, hell no, we got to get the shape in there. That's why the third one didn't have Michael Myers, and people revolted at the time, but now people seem to like it. And I think that's going to happen with Halloween Ends. I think down the road, people are going to be like, okay, I saw that they were doing, I see you, real recognize real. That was pretty solid. Although it really pissed me off, when I was looking for a satisfying conclusion to my trilogy, which I was promised through advertisements and trailers, and I got none of those.
Yeah. So the trailers were one of those things where it doesn't matter if you saw the trailers.
Yeah.
Because you didn't see anything really that was going to be in the film. Not much anyway. You saw a few screams. You saw
Laurie staring out a window, probably.
Exactly. And
I didn't
like,
see it,
people were just so. But that's another one of those things where they're split on, because if a trailer gives away too much, it's like, oh gosh, they gave away the entire thing.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't show anything, but basically a glorified teaser, you had the people complaining that, oh, well, the whole trailer set up expectations they didn't deliver. Now, there is one complaint, though, that I think has a little bit of credence.
Okay.
And it was the extended ending of kills. Lori calls her daughter, Karen, and Karen doesn't pick up, but Michael picks up and he's breathing into the phone. And Lori's final words are, "I'm coming for you, Michael." And she walks down the hallway with a knife. To me, that says, hey, the beginning of this next one is going to be a big fight. And you're going to see like something where she's stalking him. And we didn't get any of that. But I'm still okay with it because I saw what they were doing. I thought there was a lot of, I guess, a little bit more of an allegory than what we've gotten from the actual literal terror. So I'm okay with it. I like it. And there's no social messages and ends that I can think of.
I think the only thing that really stuck out to me is some like a takeaway message that you could get from it is that there are multiple ways to cope with trauma. And you have the granddaughter of Lori who has been through some shit and is marked in her community. People know her. The second they see her, they know her and they feel like they know who she is truly, which is the same for Corey. And that's why they have this instantaneous bond. This does not seem to be earned romance that they have together, probably just because they have shared trauma of different sorts. And she goes one path with it and he goes a very, very different path with it. And it's almost like a person can only be pushed so far and you can only have so much trauma in your life before maybe they're going to snap. I don't know if that really teaches us anything or, or better for it or whatever, but maybe it's just like, yeah, maybe don't bully people. You don't know what they're going through because maybe they're going to be the next shape.
I'm glad you said that it's not an earned romance because one of the big issues is, or not big issues for me, but one of the bigger complaints I've seen is like, why are Corey and Allison so smitten after like 24 hours of knowing each other?
Yeah.
Listen,
I think it's just that. It's like,
is.
Oh, you're into Yu-Gi-Oh too? Oh, me too. No one in this town is into Yu-Gi-Oh. We should be best friends now. Oh, you've also been terrorized in this entire town because you killed somebody? Oh, well, me too. Something similar.
Do you want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. Well, like I think we're going to be good friends though, Pete, because we share a trauma, and that is have watched Motel Hell.
Oh boy.
And yeah. And real quick, Rory Calhoun is a guy that plays in this one. He plays Vincent, Farmer Vincent. I'm not even going to go into everything he's done in his career. He was just a year shy of 50 years in the business. With his last acting gig being on the famed anthology show Tales from the Crypt. Speaking of anthologies, but it takes all kinds of critters to make Farmer Vincent's fritters. That was one of his catchphrases, and like you kind of see that on the like a t-shirt slogan.
Yeah.
Like a shit happens kind of a thing. Like one of those t-shirts that references a movie without like getting copyrighted. Like, for this one, you might not be able to put Motel Hell on the shirt, but you can put a fake logo for a restaurant where they serve the same meats that use that slogan.
I can see that on Teespring or TeePublic or something like that.
Teespring is exactly what I was thinking of. Like people make decent side hustles out of like putting obscure references on t-shirts. I'm no different. I made a Camp Packanack bicycle club or cycling club, and I had Crazy Ralph with his little bicycle on it. That might be my next venture.
Camp Packanack. What movie is that from?
Camp Packanack was from Friday the 13th Part 2. And Crazy Ralph was the guy who rode the bicycle everywhere. You're all doomed. That guy. And yeah, so he rode that bicycle. I said, well, fuck it, we're gonna put a bicycle club with him as the mascot. But Nancy Parsons plays the younger sister, Ida. What a name. Like, listen, Ida fits this lady.
Yeah, she's good.
She's good.
I liked her too. She was a pretty fantastic actress in this. She was very charismatic, and you kind of don't want to like her, but it's hard to not like her. She's so earnest with all of her glee, her giddiness.
Well, she was probably the second most experienced actor in this film. Did you recognize her from anything?
I could have sworn she was one of the main girls from Porky's, right?
Not only the main girl, she was the phys ed teacher, and
Go
there
on.
she is in the flesh. One
the
of the
flesh.
most iconic scenes. Yeah, let's not say flesh too.
Whoa!
Oh yeah, that this guy wants to use a glory hole and expose himself to the girls in the shower, but Miss Ballbricker.
Ballbricker.
I wonder
That's
if it
her
was.
name.
Yeah, Miss Ballbricker was.
Dang, she got a good grip on that thing.
She got a great grip, and this guy must be fully circumcised
She
because there was no
spend time in-
excess skin.
must spend time in Maine going hunting for gooey ducks.
God damn it. Oh my God. Yeah. Nancy Parsons, also RIP, by the way. Both Vincent and Ida have both passed away. She is in the role of Ms. Ballbricker in the Porky's franchise. If you don't remember, there's your refresher. But other than a cameo from Wolfman Jack, the famed radio DJ, bar none the biggest radio personality at the time. Very small role.
Played like 2 or 3 parts, didn't he?
Yeah,
Was
he
he
had
just-
he was on the radio. His voice was on the radio, and of course, he might have been on TV as well because he played like an evangelist. of
He
some
was
kind.
he was the televangelist, I think, chilling in that chair asking for money.
Exactly. And there was another televangelist. So I felt like there was like a theme here somewhere.
Sure.
Like maybe people doing what they're doing and going against their own morals and, you know, maybe wanting to repent for their sins, but they just can't do it, you know?
This is how this is how they do it. God wants us to kill drifters and make them into smoked sausage.
That is a fact.
I'm pretty sure it's in
logic to
Corinthians
me.
somewhere.
Corinthians and
Love
God,
is
if it's not in
patient, love is
Revelations,
kind, kill a drifter every Thursday or something like that.
and by Tennessee Pride. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I didn't know anything in the Bible was a poem, but I just made it one. But there was another small role from John Ratzenberger, who played Cliff on Cheers.
Really?
He was in the band. He was it looked like he was the drummer when they were playing their song on the radio. He's just banging on he had the drumsticks.
Oh, interesting. John Ratzenberger. Yeah, I think he was the guy with the choker, huh? He had the leather choker with the little hoop right here. It was when they buried him up to his neck. I was like, that guy's wearing a thick, like a daddy choker.
I don't daddy choker. I don't know if he's the one with the choker. I didn't catch that part, but I just remembered he's not wearing his mailman jacket, and that's how I recognize him. So he's got that killer mustache. But other than those people, like this cast isn't anything to be amazed by. I mean, that's usually my bag, though. Like, you know, unless I was already invested, like I prefer a cast like that. In 2022, if I see Tom Cruise in anything, like I see Tom Cruise.
Yeah,
you know, I don't see Pete Maverick or whoever the fuck he's playing in those Mission Impossible movies.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be a really epic film to change my mind on that. And if Tom Cruise was in Motel Hell, I'd be distracted by the fact that I can't see his character. Do you ever get like that?
Yeah, I kind of have the opposite in the sense that there are characters that I really love to see pop up that are known for one character. Like when Paul Rubens pops up in something, I'm like, oh shit, there's Pee Wee Herman. Yeah, Pee Wee. Pee Wee on screen.
I can get down with Pee Wee, man. I mean, but there are people that are just like that.
Sure.
But I'm with you. Don't see anybody but Pee Wee. If Rowan Atkinson jumps in on a film, like I'm thinking, oh fuck, there's Bean. What's he doing in a film, right?
It was like when Andy Serkis started like doing bigger things as a non-motion capture actor, and he's now he's Nikola Tesla's assistant in The Prestige, and you're like, oh shit, is that Andy Serkis? Is that Golem over there? Oh,
isn't he in one of the Batman flicks?
Yeah, he's in the new Matt Reeves one. He plays Alfred Pennyworth.
So the Batman, right?
He plays in the Batman
with Bob Pattinson.
Yeah, Robbie P.
Robbie P.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if you ever gotten to see it, but Alfred Hitchcock had a Twilight Zone type show called Alfred Hitchcock Presents. And I actually prefer it to the Twilight Zone, even though the Twilight Zone is like one of my top 15 shows of all time.
Okay.
This movie is like reminiscent of an old episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It's called Specialty of the House. Yeah, in which it's like a small restaurant with a kind of exclusive membership, I guess, occasionally gets served this, or they serve this rare exotic dish, supposedly made out of lamb from Uganda, but you know, the patrons there got addicted to it. Turns out it was really human meat. So I immediately picked up on that when maybe I didn't draw the parallels,
Sure.
but I said, hey, one of my favorite episodes of Alfred Hitchcock, and this is kind of the same thing. But that's really all I had to draw from. This was like a fresh watch, the first time I saw it.
Sure.
But in the opening act, it seems like the old man who runs the motel, Motel Hell or Motel Hello.
Yeah, Motel Hello.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the bulbs in the O are flickering, so it looks like it says Motel Hell.
I wasn't really sure at the beginning if he was the bad guy or if because I will say one of the best things, two very good things I'll say about this movie is it gives you just enough of the plot to keep you interested. Because the first time you see the heads buried or the people buried up to their heads, you're like, wait a second, what? And then
does he know?
It cuts away, and you're like, what? Yeah, does he know? Wait a second.
Somebody needs to tell this guy that there's some heads on his property.
And then you're like, why are they making those noises? I assume something was going on with them, but maybe it was like a supernatural thing, and they're being transformed into a head of lettuce or something. I don't know. And and then the next time you see it, it's like, well, yeah, you make those noises, you slash your vocal cords. And okay, give you a little bit more. And then you see the guy with the pig head when the two shithead twins go into the smokehouse one time, and you're like, who is this guy? Is there
because the old man's he's out there tending to the parents or whatever.
Yes, was that Ida? I mean, at the time you just don't know. You just see this guy and you keep thinking, oh God, something's gonna happen. Pig head guy's gonna come out and chop your head off and bury it in the garden. So there's enough of breadcrumbs they leave you along the way to keep you satiated until you get to the actual reveal and the third act. But I liked that, and I also really liked the disgusting gurgling sound effects. They were constant.
This
gurgling.
was an ASMR, whatever the ASMR lover's dream.
I watched it with my headphones on, but by accident. I mean, I wish I hadn't, because I was.
Yeah, you need to watch this one with on mute with subtitles.
Yeah,
yeah, just to be able to finish it. But this fucker's out bird hunting in the dark of night. So maybe he's bat hunting. I don't know, but it is before the sun comes up.
Sure.
And he witnesses the tiniest, the most insignificant motorcycle accident that puts both the driver and passenger out of commission.
Oh, by the way, your friend Bo, he's dead.
And I buried his ass.
He fell off his bike and died.
And I've seen toddlers run into each other harder than this motorcycle hits the tree. Yeah. And our main character,
$3 million.
I guess our main protagonist, she's introduced to us by this mini coma she's been put into in that crash. And we don't even know what caused this wreck. The guy seemed to be driving really well. Not like it's his first time ever. I mean, he's driving straight, and then all of a sudden, it's like he's moving the handlebars like he's on a stationary bike at Gold's Gym. Back and forth like he just forgot how to drive. And then Vincent, the old man's name, he scoops up Terry, that's the girl, and he hauls her back to the motel he presumably runs with his younger sister, Ida. And listen, I don't know what profession Ida, has dedicated her life to, but I can tell you right now, it is not in the realm of healthcare. Because when Vincent tells her to check on Terry in her incapacitated state, she does three things. She touches her forehead, takes her pulse, and then listens for a heartbeat and says she's seen enough. The girl's going to live.
Yeah, she's going to live.
She is going to live. And by the way, did you catch the lyrics to the song Ida's singing when Vincent comes back home with Terry?
No. What was it?
No. So the song says something about you're eating out my heart and soul.
Yes. There was something
feasting on my better side.
Yeah, I did. I was
you off.
She's screaming this whole time, and I did get the cannibal vibe very quickly from the two of them. It's funny. It's not something that you can really put your nose on. You can't write it down, but it's one of these things that's almost like, oh, that guy looks like a pedophile. How do I know? Trust me, I know. My gut tells me these people look like they eat humans.
Oh yeah, he looks like he would get a table for one at Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Well, he does. He does try to wife up that woman who's 40 years his junior.
But he was not really with it until she was with it.
Yeah.
So that's a little funny. And
Yeah, good for him.
who would blame him, right? I mean, she was a hammer back in the day.
Mhm.
Probably still is.
I like that
but
phrase.
what
I've never heard hammer used as like a hot
Listen,
babe. I
let
love
me
it.
tell you, that is a staple of my shows. And I'm going to tell you why really
Okay.
quickly. My dad, my biological father, once referred to Sophia Loren on TV. I believe we were watching Grumpy Old Men
Mhm.
2, the second one that she was on.
Grumpy old man. Yeah.
And yeah, Grumpier Old Men. And he says, "Is that Sophia Loren?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's I guess so. Yes, it's her." He says, "Man, I don't know what she's gonna want Walter Matthau, because a long time ago, that gal was a hammer." Ever since,
That's it.
that's like, God level
Sure.
on attractiveness for a woman. And I don't say it like in like everyday life, but if we're here in character, right?
Yeah,
We're on a show. We're on a
absolutely.
show. We're on a show. We're not disrespecting anybody, nor would we allow anyone to disrespect Sophia Loren.
Hey, my girlfriend's a hammer. You know what?
Your girlfriend's a hammer.
Hell
I don't
yeah,
even have to
dude.
see her.
She's
And
a
I
smoke
know.
show.
Whole smoke show is what she
Yeah.
is. A smoke show hammer is what she is.
Hammer. That's interesting. Where are you from, by the way?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay, so Tennessee. I wonder if it's a Tennessee thing or if it's just your dad thing. Because either way, it's cool.
A lot of shit was just a my dad thing, but he got it from somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
He had to. But what we know so far is that Vincent and Ida are running this motel, selling their homegrown meat out of the motel.
Mhm.
And we know it's homegrown by what the two little twin girls see in the barn
Butcher.
before
Yeah.
they're scared away. Nothing nefarious except for the music and the person in the barn with the pig mask.
Besides that,
And of course, yeah, well, besides that, there's that hidden door in the vines where he keeps his evil 8-track.
yeah.
I mean, what do you listen to while you're hacking up bodies like that?
I don't. You know what? That's a good question. Goodbye Horses by Q Lazarus, probably.
God damn it!
You got your longtime girlfriend you're with, right? Just
Oh, yeah.
put yourself in that situation. You get a phone call. We've abducted your beloved. Bring me $10,000. You just happen to have $10,000, and you're gonna go pay the ransom, get your beloved back. It's a 30-minute drive there. It's middle of the night. Do you put music on or no? On the
Oh
drive.
yeah, and it's gonna be like No Easy Way Out from Rocky.
It's gonna be an
And-
anthem.
Yeah, all windows are down. I'm like running my hands through my hair, and I'm like thinking about Apollo dying.
I'm coming for you, honey.
Yeah, and whoever's got her, like his ass is gonna be wrecked because of that song.
I
Not
made
because
a
of my powers.
It's funny that you have imbued the Apollo Creed's powers into you.
I mean, if he dies, he dies. Right?
I will
If he
break
dies,
you.
he dies.
I made a special Spotify playlist just in the case that Brianna gets kidnapped and I have to go save her. It only maxes out at 30 minutes. Yeah,
So, well, hopefully they don't take her too far.
I know. After 30 minutes, someone else's problem.
I don't. Where is she?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, okay, so you keep her.
She's all yours. The shipping charges are on you. Well, Vincent and Ida, they live in a pretty lenient county, one that allows you to bury a body before you've even,
Sure.
found that it's cold.
Mhm.
And it's not even turning heads because the sheriff or deputy confirms that. And oh, by the way, the sheriff deputy is Vincent and Ida's little brother.
It's a brother, yeah.
Yeah, so you can't really tell if he's in on everything yet. He seems innocent. He seems kind of silly. He seems like he might have been bullied because Ida takes him down with a headlock, and
Mhm.
holds him down to the bed. But if you've
He's
watched the newer,
he's definitely the Dewey of Scream.
he is perfectly the Dewey of Scream.
Yeah. Mhm.
And like, if you've watched like the newer continuities of the Texas Chainsaw films, you can't really trust the sheriffs. For fuck's sake, don't get in the car with them at the end of the movie when you've escaped, because
Mhm.
they'll just bring you back to the bad guys. Right? So remember when Vincent had that little sneaky hidden door behind the vines? Well,
Mhm.
it turns out he's housing some crazy shit that we've already talked about. Like there'd been an inspector, I guess a regulations guy, who came to do like some spot checks. Well, he uncovers the whole operation, Pete.
He got a little nosy, Bob.
Yeah, he got a little nosy, and Vincent and Ida have a garden, but instead of heads of lettuce or cabbage, they got humans buried up to their heads, sedated, being fattened up for the slaughter.
Yeah, I don't know why. Like, why bury them? Are they like dry aging them? Are they trying to like? I don't know. It's like keeping a snail in a freshwater tank before you eat it. You get all the gunk out of it.
Perfect question without an answer in the world to be found.
No one knows.
Because, yeah, humans don't have roots. Okay, so unless you're infusing that soil with Queen Helene cocoa butter, like you're not doing anything for their skin. So what the actual fuck is going on with the burial? Maybe it's just easier to hold him down.
Yeah, it
did make for a really cool kill later on, though.
Yeah, that was interesting. I liked the whole Willy Wonka in the tunnel thing, that he built this mobile device to fuck with these guys' heads right before he killed them, and his reasoning was that God would want him to do this. If I'm gonna kill anybody, at least put them out of their like mind first. Like fuck their head up real bad.
Fuck them up real good. Basically convince yourself that God's telling you to do it. And it makes me want to go back. God, if I ever wanted to come back, then I guess it would be time to check out the dialogue from that from the preachers that are on TV and see what they're talking about. And
the one on the
like
on the TV,
maybe there's some double talk there, you know?
Could be, yeah. The one on the TV, he's just talking about tithing. He's like, "Yeah, give up. You won't live a richer life until you start giving to the church." And you're like, "Okay, yeah." The other one, I didn't quite get anything from. It just seemed like standard is psycho sort of, and
Jimmy Swaggart-ish type shit, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, later on, we find that Bruce, the hapless sheriff deputy, he's getting pushy with Terry. They're going to check out this flick, which was I had the name of the flick in my head, but they're having to watch it through binoculars for whatever reason.
Yeah,
but Terry's being as dry as Saharan pussy. Okay, and like the most likable characters in this entire fucking movie have to be that kinky couple that came in the middle of the night, and we got so little time with them.
Yeah.
The guy in the Little Rascals hat and his hot girlfriend. I don't know how you have comic relief in a film that's already comic relief, but it worked.
Yeah, they're the German couple from Super Troopers.
Perfect.
All porned out, ready to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, walks up just hard as a brick. And like Elaine Joyce was the girl, and she was in a lot of stage and TV roles, always kind of typecast. And Dick Curtis was he was in a lot of comedies and only had one horror role, and it was Motel Hell.
No shit. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting couple of actors that if you ever did a deep dive, they'd be fun to look at. But another scene that could have been longer was the one that I like to call the white T-shirt in the lake scene.
Oh yeah.
No particular reason, but what we got from that scene is a sign that there's dissension and jealousy among the ranks. Like Ida invites Terry to go tubing, like you do.
And they're having a ball, like in a stationary tubing day.
Yeah, you would think you want running water for that.
Yeah, it's either behind a boat or floating down a river. You're not just like out in the pond, one position. Ah, yes.
You're in the same shape you were.
Yeah.
Before you got in the water. Now you're just wet.
Yeah, now you're just wet, and you're also sitting on hot black rubber.
Hot black rubber. But what we did get was that wet T-shirt, and that is literally the only reason they filmed this scene.
She was not very shy of showing off what God gave her.
Not at all. Like she had those things ready, like pointing at like a sundial.
Yeah, there was a scene shortly after this when skipping ahead a little bit, she's in bed. She goes back home. Vincent saves her, and that's when her love for Vincent comes. And he takes her back to bed. And Ida says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I tried to kill you. Can you forgive me?" And she goes, "Of course I can." And that's the end of that. So no more talk about that time that Ida tried to kill. What's her name again? Terry.
Terry.
Yeah,
Terry.
And then Vincent Terry leaves the room. No, Ida leaves the room, and Terry and Vincent are there on bed, and she's just one breast out, one just under the sheets, just having a casual conversation with this man who, up until this point, you assume she thinks of a father figure, until she starts like sucking on his thumb or something, and she's like, "Come kiss me, Vincent," and he kisses her on the forehead like an innocent,
like a grandfather.
yes, like a grandfather, and she goes, "No, no."
No.
No.
Yeah, my feet are
Take
going
me.
behind my ears, old man, and you're gonna get with it. But it almost feels like it's a Stockholm syndrome kind of a thing.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, but like usually it's involuntary captors that this happens to or happens with. But Ida and Bruce have their own little sort of jealousy because Bruce likes Terry. Ida doesn't want, I guess, anybody having her brother. I don't think there's anything romantic there, even though I would not be surprised whatsoever. But the total run time in this film was in the neighborhood of an hour 45.
Yeah.
And a couple of scenes removed might have taken it down to 90 minutes. And up to this point, the movie had moved right along. Like once the romantic stuff stopped dragging around, though, because it did drag the film down a little bit. Bruce puts two and two together, and face it, he's not going to do it to stop, a mass murderer. He's doing all this because Terry has those epic titties, and it kind of checks out. Of course you're going to do that. And she's a lot closer than 30 minutes. He didn't even need a soundtrack to get there. But Bruce comes to the rescue while Ida's got mailman Cliff in a pot of boiling water like it's a Bugs Bunny episode, just waiting for her to start cutting the carrots into the pot,
Yeah.
And the people buried in the garden, they're freed. They've been hypnotized, like you said, by that magic psychedelic machine.
Yeah.
Vincent put in front of them. And a big piece of info there. I don't know what was going on, but they basically storm the farm. They kill Ida, presumably, even though we don't really see a definitive death. But then there comes that epic scene that made the covers of Fangoria magazine, while Bruce and Vincent have this epic battle that
Chainsaw
iconic
chainsaw.
visual.
I love it.
Iconic visual, Pete.
Yeah.
Vincent donning the pig's head. They're dueling chainsaws, or he's dueling chainsaws with Bruce. It reaches a bloody ending, resulting in Bruce saving Terry from being sawed in half. And Vincent's final words present a gift to Bruce and Terry, leaving the motel to them and confessing with the best line of the film. I'm sure you remember what it was.
Yeah. He says, "I'm the biggest hypocrite of them all. I use preservatives."
God damn it, that's such a heartbreaker. I'm more disappointed in him for using preservatives, because he could have done that with any animal. Could have done that with any animal. He wanted the human fresh meat. Oh, that's why they wanted to keep them fresh, in the ground. So
yeah.
nothing keeps you fresh quite like being in the
Packed in soil.
in Mother Earth. You know. But do you think there's an actual message here in this film, like maybe about the FDA and what they might be doing to our food?
I don't know, man. I mean, I'd like to think that most things have a message in them. I don't think there's a whole lot there to glean from this.
So it's like, instead of there being more than meets the eye, there's less than meets the eye.
Yeah, I think this is about as surface level as you get. It's a fun, kind of campy slasher that doesn't have a whole lot of slashes in it, doesn't have a whole lot of laughs in it, but the ones that you do get are pretty entertaining, and it all culminates to a great chainsaw v chainsaw fight, which is, if you're ever, I do a lot of like trivia. I love trivia, and I love movie trivia too. This would be a good movie to reference for, an obscure, like name 2 movies or 3 movies that have 2 chainsaws in the same scene or whatever. This would be a great one.
Well, my only critique, because it gave us what it meant to give us. I think maybe not what the original screenplay had, but the director's vision gave us what we got. And if it was 10 minutes, 15 minutes shorter, it would be a perfectly fine slasher type hillbilly horror. To call this a hillbilly horror probably is more insulting to hillbillies.
Sure, yeah.
Than anything else. But man, let's rate this thing, okay? On Slasher Sports Cinema, we use the slasher scale, the slashes scale. I honestly give this one 6.5 slashes, which is a very watchable film.
Is it out of 10? Is there 10?
It's out of 10.
Oh, gosh. How many slashes out of 10 for Motel Hell? I'd probably put this at I'd probably put it somewhere around like the 5.5 mark. Entertaining
I can
enough.
respect that.
Yeah, like the score. There was times when I liked the score, and there were other times where it just seemed kind of out of place. And the characters were charismatic enough. It ended with a really nice a final finale. And although they didn't really set up Bruce as being like a hero, he could just kind of like seem like the butt of the joke and almost maybe one of the bad guys because he's corroborating their story. They don't do a whole lot of setup, but he comes through in the end, and he makes a pretty good hero at the end. As goofy as he is. So yeah, I'd say it is a recommend if you know what you're getting into. I think it's worth a watch.
Well, like we said before the podcast began recording, bad horror films are better than bad films from any other genre.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can recommend somebody this film and they get a laugh out of it, then what happened is exactly what I wanted to happen. So, yeah. Pete, before I let you go, man, tell us about your social medias, where to find your work, where to listen to your work. We want to turn people on to your projects and
sure, absolutely. So probably the easiest way to get to listen to the show is just whatever podcast player you're into, Spotify, iTunes, Podchaser, Podbean, Ghana, all these weird ones that you know and the ones that you've never even heard of before. Just search for Middle Class Film Class. That's the name of the show. It's a black and white logo. It's the three of our heads, me, Joseph, and Tyler. And click subscribe because we are very much into our fans and our listeners. So if you listen week after week and you're picking up on this and that, we all have very varied tastes too. So what I like, Tyler doesn't like. What Tyler likes, Joseph may not like. So once you start getting involved with who you align with along the show, we give recommendations every single week to movies that we love and movies that we hate. So it's a good service to the people. As far as like Twitter, I'm on Twitter. I'm at The Real Pete, but Pete is spelled with 4 E's in the middle, Peeeete. And you can look us up. Our show has a Facebook page, facebook.com/MCFC podcast.
Guys, all these links, not to worry, that was a mouthful. They're going to be in the bio to this episode, the episode description. Going to hyperlink all that in there for you to easy click, find my guy, Pete. First of all, man, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come and chill out with me, talk about this ridiculous movie. A lot of things you could be doing on a Thursday night, and one of them is not hanging out with me. So I thank you.
I appreciate that, man. No, thank you for asking me on, and it's always a pleasure to come on. And thank you for exposing me to this movie, which I probably should have watched a long time ago.
Exposing is such a funny way to describe it.
I've been tainted.
You've been tainted by this movie. Now it will never wash off. So, guys, we hope you enjoyed this show. Go watch Motel Hell if you haven't already. It's on Tubi for free. But if you don't do anything else, by all means, go forth and drink the blood of your enemies from the skulls of their children.